All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, if you were looking for drama, then look no further than today's Peach Bowl in good old Atlanta, GA. Texas Longhorns and Arizona State Sun Devils took the field in the Peach Bowl this afternoon with a spot in the semis of the college football playoff on the line. And at first, it looked like it was going to simply be a piece of cake for the heavily favored Longhorns. We saw Texas jump out to a 14-3 lead midway through the second quarter, and it looked like, you know what? No big thing as Texas could go ahead and punch their ticket for the Cotton Bowl and the semis. Now, Arizona State at one point they found themselves down 17-3. And it was one of those when they went to the locker room at the half down 2 touchdowns. I'm sure they could have looked and they did look back at so many different missed opportunities. The Sun Devils had multiple trips inside the red zone and came away with 0 points. But even with all of that said, their defense was really helping them stay in the game because you look at it, one of those Texas touchdowns in the first quarter was a 75-yard punt return from Silas Bolden. Like I said, multiple missed field goals, multiple missed opportunities for the Sun Devils. And when it was all said and done, they were only down 14. Now, another opportunity for Arizona State to cut into that Texas lead midway through the third quarter came for naught as they were stopped at the 2 yard line. But then on the very next play, the first play of the ensuing Texas drive, a fumble by Quay Weisner, which was picked up by Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, but he went down in the end zone for the safety to make it 17-5. And then the Sun Devils, they had to settle for a field goal again, but they just kept chipping away, making it 17-8. But then it looked like Texas was going to put this game away. Early in the fourth quarter, Quinn Ewers scored on a 5 yard run, and that capped off a 13-play, 76-yard drive that ate up more than 5 minutes of game clock to give Texas the 24-8 advantage. And you figured at this point, Texas is up 16. Arizona State was going to have to score 2 touchdowns and two-point conversions, and the Longhorns were going to be on easy street. But then Arizona State, true to their form, they came roaring back, and then on a 4th and 2 play, nice play call. Okay, it was a toss to the right to the phenomenal running back for Arizona State, Cam Scatterbo. Everybody on the Longhorns defense went for him, but then Scatterbo threw the football to Malik McLean for a 42-yard touchdown to make it 24-14. Then from there, getting the 2-point conversion to make it 24-16. At that point, the momentum in this contest shifted, and before you blinked, Arizona State got the football back fresh off of a Quinn Ewers interception, and they went right back down the field to again Sam Levitt with the big time pass to Cam Scatterbo. The 2 penalties on the play, one that was declined, the pass interference on Michael Taft, and then the personal foul face mask penalty on Michael Taft, which was accepted. I'm going to touch back on that young man a little bit later, but nonetheless, Arizona State had all of the momentum from there, and before you blinked, the Sun Devils had scored another touchdown and another 2-point conversion to knot this score at 24 apiece. And Arizona State, they had all of the momentum on their side at this point at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We go back to Texas kicker Bert Auburn, missing a kick earlier that could have extended that Longhorns lead. And then for me, okay, you look at it, Arizona State was driving late with an opportunity to go out there and win this game. And a very, very controversial no call on Texas safety Michael Taft. When I initially saw it, I thought that he was going to be called for targeting. Okay, you could take it for what you want. I know that the ASU folks were definitely upset by it, but I've seen less called for targeting. And initially on seeing the hit on replay, I said, you know what, he's going to be ejected. If Texas advances, he's clearly not going to be able to play in the Cotton Bowl. But nonetheless, ASU was going to get the ball 1st and 10 off of that in Texas territory, and that was not the case. And then ASU had to punt. But then, you could say that it worked out, but because the game ended up going to overtime. But for me, at that point, Arizona State had all of the momentum, and this Texas defense was tired. This Texas defense could not stop Cam Scatterbo. And I mean, a credit to Arizona State from the aspect that, you know what, they never went away from the big fella. Okay. And the fact that they stayed within two scores for the bulk of the game, that gave them an opportunity to keep feeding the ball to Cam Scatterbo. And he was frustrated at first. Why? Because, every place that he went, that entire Texas defense went with him. And you had to expect that because he's one of the most phenomenal ball carriers in the nation. It was a couple of fourth down plays, a couple of third down plays. It was third and short, fourth and short. ASU gave Scatterbo the football and Texas stopped them. But nonetheless, they kept going to him. And I think, making adjustments as the game went on for Arizona State, not just lining up Scatterbo to get the ball as a ball carrier, but nonetheless lining him up at a wide receiver, having him come out of the backfield and catch passes just to get a lather, if you will, just to get a rhythm of the game, I think was big for him. And again, he got going as this game, went extended, and he was the heart and soul of that team. But then, Bert Auburn missing that second kick, the game going to overtime. Arizona State scoring immediately as they got the football. They had all of the momentum in the world. It came down to a fourth down and 15 play for the Sun Devils defense. They couldn't, a fourth down and 13 rather, they couldn't make the stop as Quinn Ewers hooked up with Matthew Golden to knock the score at 31 apiece. Of course, Texas got the ball back right away. And Gunnar Helm was the recipient of a 25-yard pass from Quinn Ewers to make it 39-31. Because, of course, in the second overtime, you got to go for the 2-point conversion. And then from there, the Texas defense stepping up and intercepting Arizona State quarterback Sam Levitt to seal the deal. And Texas survived this afternoon in Atlanta by the score of 39-31. Excuse me. I'll tell you like this: Arizona State, first things first, they are going to look back at the missed opportunities that they had, especially in the second and third quarter. ASU had so many opportunities to get on the board. And first and foremost, credit to Texas's defense for going out there and making those key plays to keep Arizona State off the scoreboard. They're also going to look back at that big non-call of targeting because, again, I have seen less called as far as targeting. And, as this game went on and as, the momentum shifted from Texas to Arizona State, this contest really had the feel of the 1997 Rose Bowl, 28 years to the date. And if anybody remembers that game, Arizona State was undefeated. They were 60 football minutes away from claiming a national championship, and they went up against Big Bad Ohio State. And Jake the Snake Plummer, who was in attendance in Atlanta today, and the Sun Devils showed that, they were legit. And Arizona State had a phenomenal team that year. The late, great Pat Tillman, Lindsey Jackson, and Keith Poole at wide receiver, J.R. Redmond at running back, Fright Night Friedman, on that defensive line, just to name a few. And we saw that feel to this contest today. Look at how the tempo changed for Arizona State's defense once Shamari Simmons came into the game in the third quarter. Of course, he was suspended for the first half of this game after he was ejected for targeting in the Big 12 championship game win over Iowa State. But nonetheless, this Arizona State team, they wore that glass slipper, even though that they came from a power conference. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12, and they were right there within a whisker of winning a playoff game and advancing to the semis. But, again, credit to Cam Scatterbo because this young man, after that slow start, and like I said, the Sun Devils kept giving him the football. And this young man showed why he is one of the better players in the country. And honestly, he made a very compelling case to say, hey, you know what? He should have been in New York City for the Heisman Trophy Award. 30 carries, 143 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 99 yards receiving on 8 receptions, and then, of course, a 42-yard touchdown pass. Kenny Dillingham, the young head coach at Arizona State, showed that his Sun Devils are legit. But on the flip side for Texas, it was all about surviving and advancing. But even though the Steve Sarkisian's bunch found a way to survive, how confident are you in Texas? Because Texas has a lot of talent, but I feel like at times, and this is no disrespect to Arizona State because we've seen it more often than not this year. It seems like too often that the Longhorns tend to sleepwalk at times. And in this tournament, when it's win or go home, you cannot afford to have that type of mentality. You just look at the way that the Rose Bowl started this evening and the big lead that Ohio State got out to. Ohio State's been a bit different team since that loss to Michigan so far in this playoff. And I feel like Texas, even though that they have the talent, they don't have that mentality. Quinn Ewers threw for over 300 yards today, but I still feel like he's got to go out there and play better if Texas is going to win. 53 yards on the ground is not going to cut it for the Longhorns going forward. And I'll tell you like this, Texas is going to need the rest, especially on defense going into the Cotton Bowl. Why? Because Cam Scatterbo brought it today. I know that young man was out there vomiting on the field, drinking Gatorade, trying to keep himself hydrated, but nonetheless, he put that lean on this Texas defense, and you saw, like just like a heavyweight boxing match, as this game progressed. It wasn't Scatterbo who ran out of gas; it was his Texas defense. I mean, he was running through D line, okay, on his way to pay dirt. So that just gives you an idea. It was kind of like shades of John Riggins, Earl Campbell, and Mike Allstott all rolled into one player this afternoon. So that's going to be telling for Texas going forward because if they got to face Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, you know that the Buckeyes are going to run the football. If they got to take care, if they got to face a Notre Dame, a Penn State, or even possibly a Georgia in the championship game, should Texas get that far, all three of those teams that I mentioned love to run the football. So again, Texas sleepwalks at times. They survive, they escape, they advance, but the Longhorns are going to have to play better. They're definitely going to have some home cooking come time for the semis in Arlington, excuse me, for the Cotton Bowl. But like I said, these Longhorns definitely have to play better if they want to win. Hands down, the best game so far in this college football playoff. We saw four blowouts in round number one. Uh, Last night's Fiesta Bowl, it was up in the air, but still Penn State won by 17 points. And then, of course, the start by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl this evening. But nonetheless, a thriller in Atlanta. It could have gone either way. But Texas, they had to sweat it out. Arizona State made them work for it. And now let's see how the Longhorns respond to this as they're headed to the Cotton Bowl. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.